What's up, everybody? It's your boy Jay from Yankee and the Brit coming back at you to break down some Minnesota Vikings offseason news. So, Kevin O'Connell has been introduced as the head coach. We have some other other coaches who have now been signed. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Vikings being 15 million over the cap and how it's really not that far over the cap as everybody thinks. But first, I wanted to let you guys know, keep your eyes open tonight on Yankee and the Brit on YouTube, the second episode ever of the Mark Out podcast. It's a great pro wrestling podcast with Dustin and Mustache. You'll have a great time watching it. And tomorrow on Real Talk with Jay, comedian, hip hop artist, Lonnie Dangerous. It is fucking hilarious. Make sure you don't miss. But let's talk about the coaches real quick. Kevin O'Connell is now the head coach. He's being introduced today. We all knew that was coming. I know there was some weird shit coming out that he was going to pull a Josh McDaniels and stay in LA, but I did not think that McVay was going to retire. He's really young, coming off a championship, got a pretty good team down there. So I didn't think that was a realistic possibility. So we all pretty much knew that Kevin O'Connell would be the new Vikings head coach. I guess what we didn't know was, for up until a few days ago, is Mike Pettin is going to be the assistant head coach, which my guess is they're just bringing him in to help a rookie head coach figure the things out as a head coach that they've never done before, and to also help coordinate the defense, even though the new defensive coordinator is Ed Donatel from Denver. So when they were going to bring in Jim Harbaugh, Vic Fangio was going to come with him. So we're bringing the same defense, just Vic's defensive coordinator, even though we all know Vic called the plays, just like McVay called in LA. But these two men were essential in game planning for games. So I'm not too worried about them coming in and not calling plays. I know that O'Connell had worked with Kirk Cousins back in Washington. So to me, it looks like Cousins is probably going to get an extension and be there for some years unless something happens and they get Deshaun Watson. But I'm not sure that the Wolves want to deal with that or they'd be willing to give up the compensation it would take. But let's talk about beyond the coaches that they got, because I think they're really building up a really nice coaching staff over there right now. I like Kawisi as the general manager. I think young, offensive-minded head coach with the offense the Vikings have works. I would have been okay with a defensive coach. You know me, I was D'Amico Ryan's guy. I was okay with that hire. If it would have went, I would have been okay with Jim Harbaugh, but he made me nervous because he wears on people after a few years. But for the salary cap, I know the Vikings are $15 million over the salary cap. Cousins is going to have a $45 million cap hit, and Danielle Hunter is going to hit for 26 against the cap. And that's where I want to start. So if you think about it, you can almost get under the cap with Danielle Hunter and keep him, because everybody thinks you have to trade Danielle Hunter to get under the cap or cut him, let him walk. So the brilliance of Rob Brzezinski and Rick Spielman when they signed Danielle Hunter to this extension is they put 2 years at the back end that were void. So that means it was essentially a 2-year extension, which starts this year for 2 years, and then there's 2 void years. All they have to do to save $13 million against the cap, where they are already $15 million over, is to cut his pay, or I mean, not to cut his pay, but to make his pay a signing bonus. Then they can spread it out over those 4 years, and it's essentially a 2-year deal. If you extend him, you can fix the problems with the dead 2 years at the end, but it brings him down to a hit of $13 million this year, which just puts you $2 million under the cap. Anybody watched Rob Brzezinski? He works fucking miracles with the salary cap. So just by taking Danielle Hunter's base salary and turning it into a signing bonus, the Vikings are almost right at the cap. And then you'll have to do some gymnastics. I'm pretty sure they're going to extend Cousins, which will free up some room. I feel like you have to re-sign P2, because what do you do in that secondary if you have no corners? And if you let P2 walk, you do not have a veteran corner. Maybe he's lost a step, but he's still Patrick Peterson. He's still smart. He can still help run that defense. So the question comes now is, where else do they make moves? What else do they do? But I think with Danielle Hunter, them flipping his salary over into a bonus and then restructuring Cousins should put them well under the salary cap and give them money to go out and get free agents. I know people think the Vikings weren't going to be able to get free agents because they're over the cap, but that's not it. There's a million ways to manipulate that salary cap. I mean, just look at Tampa Bay kept a whole team of people that they should have lost everybody because you can do salary cap gymnastics. It is kicking the can down the road, but with Danielle Hunter, as long as you can get an extension done in the next 2 years, those 2 dead years don't matter. So that was the brilliance of the Danielle Hunter contract extension. And these void years are becoming more and more prevalent in the NFL, so they can play that money gymnastics with the salary cap. So the Vikings should actually be able to free up a bunch of money to go after a few people. They're going to need some help on the offensive line because it doesn't look like Bradbury can hold up against big D tackles. They might have to move him over, bring in another center. Maybe Wyatt Davis is the answer, or maybe you got to go draft somebody. But I personally think at 12, you better go defense. In the second round, you better go defense. They better go hardcore defense in free agency and in the draft, because the defense is what fell off from Rick Spielman letting everybody on that defense walk. You have to let Anthony Barr walk, because there's no way you can pay a guy what he's probably going to get on the open market for a guy who's only played, 7 games in the last 2 years or whatever it is. He hasn't played a ton. I know Danielle Hunter hasn't played a ton, but a dude like Danielle Hunter is young and one of the best pass rushing DNs in football. So you have to figure that pec is healed up and it's not going to be a problem going forward. Maybe you're a little worried about the neck, but with Danielle Hunter, if you do what we were just talking about, only 13 million on the cap, you have to keep him and see what happens from there. They're going to need some help with the safeties. Do you re-sign Woods? Do you elevate somebody else on the team? You go across from Harry the Hitman, but they have to build up those corners. The front seven was good. They had more sacks than I thought they would get not having Danielle Hunter. We saw DJ Wanham come on. I really hope they can bring back Sheldon Richardson, because not only is he a good 3 technique, but he actually filled at the end very well. I was very shocked and surprised on how well he filled in at the end of the year. So I honestly think that the Vikings should be fine with their salary cap. I don't think there should be any problems with the salary cap. I think it's a what to do about nothing thing. I do think that the Vikings have some work to do. And if they do not hit right in free agency, I think that they're going to have some weak spots still on that defense. But with Kevin O'Connell coming in, the offensive weapons you have, I think you're going to see a lot of more of KJ Osborne with this new system. You got Thielen, you got JJ, Justin Jefferson, you got Cook. You got Alexander Madsen, who missed some blocks at the beginning of the year, but at the end of the year, this dude was stout in pass blocking. He picked up great pass blocking at the end of the year. You got a deep running back core. You got Irv Smith coming back. You got Conklin, if you can re-sign him. So that tight end core is real deep. So the offensive line is something that they have to fix a little. They've been working on it. It's been getting better. Christian Darrisaw, actually, the last 8 games of the year had an 88 pass blocking rating, so he was doing great. I love Ezra Cleveland. We got a beast in O'Neal on the right side. So it's that right guard center position, which I think maybe you move to Bradbury to guard, bring in another center, or maybe Wyatt Davis steps up, plays guard, and you bring in another center. I think the Vikings are in a good spot right now with their salary cap. People are getting crazy because they're 15 million over, but some things were written into contracts that we just talked about to make it easier for them to get under the salary cap. And I also am going to come back at you and talk about the Bears, the Lions, and the Packers, but we're going to wait to see what happens with Mr. Rodgers, if he's going to stay in the neighborhood before we get to the Packers. I know the Bears have a lot of movement in their organization, some new head coaches. We're going to see a new head coach. We're going to see what goes from there. With the Lions, I think Dan Campbell's moving in the right direction. I do think they're still lacking talent, but they are building a culture down there that they haven't had in a long time. So I'm excited to see where they go. I do not feel Jared Goff's the answer, but as a stopgap, till you find your next guy, I mean, what else are you going to do? All right, guys. If you think I'm an idiot or you have any comments about what's going on with the Vikings head coaching and the salary cap, comment below. Keep your eyes open. Tomorrow, Real Talk with Jay, Lonnie Dangerous. And tonight, the Markout podcast with Dustin and Mustache. They are going to do a fantasy WrestleMania ruthless aggression style. So make sure you check that out. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for all of your support. Make sure you check out OTH, Overtime Hustling, on YouTube. Make sure you check out Heart in the Fight on YouTube. Make sure you check out all the Street Beefs. And stay tuned, because we are going to have our boy Cuzzo on Real Talk at some point coming up. All right, guys, thanks for watching. All right, Skull Nation, this one was for you. One world, one love. Deuces.